Hello and welcome to episode 199 of the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet, Super Switch Headz. My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is David Howe, and oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest back on the episode for tonight. For you people, we got the wonderful Sara Waldman on the podcast, aka Ivy. How's it going, Ivy?
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Oh, yeah, we love having you, Ivy. Thanks so much for joining.
That's right, Ivy.
My pleasure.
You're here to talk with us about Splatoon 3. It's been around for 6 months. They've given us a couple updates. We're going to do a check-in on Splatoon 3. And it's also been 6 years of the Switch. So we're going to spend a little time talking about the Switch turning 6 years old. And our memories of that. We've got some other things in the news. A lot of Mario stuff. Nintendo's pushing the big Mar 10 thing.
A lot of it's Mar 9.
Mar 9.
This go around, which we all know that character, Mar 9.
So there's some Mario stuff coming out soon. And a couple Metroid things as well we're going to talk about. And of course, Switch 2. We got to talk about that more. Now that Matt's gone, we're going to talk about it every week.
Oh, hell yeah. We're actually changing our show to Super Switch Successor Heads.
But before we do all that, how's everybody doing? How are y'all doing?
Doing pretty good. Yeah. Had a pretty fun weekend. Connected with some friends, some old friends, and chilled a little bit. I saw Cocaine Bear on Friday, which was a lot of fun. And I really actually liked that movie a lot. I heard like good and bad things, and I ended up just like really enjoying it. So I recommend going and seeing Cocaine Bear. But yeah, that's mostly it. We did our JRPG club as well on Sunday, our like first round of it. And that was a blast talking to people about Chained Echoes, and can't wait to finish that game and do a full spoilers chat. What about you, Patrick?
Oh, me? I'm fine, I guess. I think it's like you were talking like, I had a good weekend. I'm like, oh yeah, the weekend happened. I don't know. My life's a blur, it feels like right now. Every day is the same. No, it's been fine. I don't really have a whole lot to report. It was a pretty calm weekend. I didn't do much.
All right, good for you. Good for you, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I slept a lot. What about you?
There you go. We love sleeping.
Sleep is good.
Yeah. Did you have a good weekend or week, Ivy?
Yeah, I had a great weekend, a great week. The weather has just been gorgeous where I am. I live in Florida, and our springtime has been beautiful so far. Yes. Light breeze, sunshine, low humidity, just perfect. It's made being outside a real treat.
Yes.
Awesome. That's good to hear. Oh yeah. Look at us. We're all doing so well.
Oh boy. Okay.
Matt, if you're listening, comment in the YouTube video how your weekend was.
Last week we did an episode on the Pokemon Presents, and they showed off Pokemon Sleep. We got a nice comment from Hans Kauger saying it was one of the funniest episodes we'd done, and Ryan's slept on joke was really good. Plus, Hans did a edit of the Pokemon Sleep trailer to some very appropriate music.
It was Let's Get It On, right?
Yeah.
I think it was, yeah. That was really fucking funny. Yeah, I was losing it. It just worked so perfectly. Yeah.
And we also, I think, David, you randomly mentioned Blast Core in the episode, and that got most of the comments on our Discord.
Yeah, it was a light Pokemon presence last week. It was not like super entertaining.
So AV, Lee.
It was a stocking stuffer.
Yeah.
Cena, Bordan, a bunch of people talked about that. There were some other people who also mentioned other things, but in particular, also David, you made something that you shared. Do you want to?
Oh yeah, during Big Run, I kept like finding myself like almost falling asleep to the sounds of like the square in Splatoon during the Big Run event that just happened in Splatoon 3, and I was like, man, this would make a really great like 1 hour of ASMR, like relaxing sounds video. So I did one. I just like recorded it for an hour and then posted it. And Jay in the Discord said that he actually listened to it to fall asleep. So I'm really glad somebody's actually using it. Cause I use like Blade Runner. I like, if I need to fall asleep, I put in headphones and I search on YouTube Blade Runner sleep. And I found like an hour of like cyberpunk ambient, like city sounds. Take away from that what you will, as the kind of person I am. But so that seemed like pretty perfect for me. So more than anything, I made that for myself. But if it lulls you to bed, shoot a subscribe.
We do appreciate hearing from people who listen to the episode or watch it on YouTube. Definitely send us a note if we say anything today that you have a response to. We appreciate that. Maybe you'll get shouted out next time. And we also appreciate if you like and subscribe on YouTube. And with that, we can talk about all the news and such for the week here. Are y'all ready for that?
Let's do it.
Okay, so first up, apparently the update to the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet games is causing maybe more problems than it's worth. There's been reports that the game is like saves are being deleted, right? That's the biggest one. Is there other bugs too, or it's mostly just that, right?
I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch because the game is just filled with bugs anyway, right? And that's kind of the worry. I mean, it's like anytime you are working on anything and you're like fixing bugs, your fear is that you fixing the bug is just making more bugs, right?
It happens.
Which is why you don't want to be doing bug fixes right up until the last minute because you don't have a chance to like catch the new bugs you make. You know what I mean? But yeah, apparently, and I might be wrong on this. I don't know all the details. This is more like a PSA than anything. But I think connecting the game to Pokemon Go is potentially causing people to lose their entire save files, which is really problematic because I'm pretty sure this game still does not support Nintendo Switch Online cloud saves, right?
No, yeah, never will because none of the Pokemon games do.
Exactly. So it's like, this is, so just be careful with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet right now. Cause especially if you're like a shiny hunter and you've put like 400 or 500 hours into this game, like trying to get, fill out your Pokedex and everything goes away. That'd be pretty devastating. So,
yeah, apparently some people have lost their saves from downloading the DLC, according to people reporting it on Reddit. So who knows? But
yeah. So I would say just play something else for the next couple days until Nintendo makes a statement or releases a patch or something like that. But that's a little scary, right? I mean, this is the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet cannot stay out of the news cycle for all the wrong reasons, unfortunately.
No, they cannot. But we'll move on. If you lost your save, definitely let us know, right? Like, I would love to know if this is hear about this and what you did that happened.
Yeah.
But we hope you didn't lose your save.
Yeah, but we also hope nobody lost their save.
Yeah. But if you did, let us know. We'll buy you a copy of a Digimon game and you can just get away from this godforsaken franchise once and for all.
Oh boy. We'll move on to some Metroid news. A franchise that's more endorsed by our podcast. So Metroid Prime Remastered, the physical version, has been hard to find in stock after the initial release. So they shadow dropped this game, the digital version, the thing that we said Nintendo would never do, they did at the last Direct. And then a couple weeks later they put out physical, but it sold out most places. And then I think finally it's starting to be back in stock in some places is what I've heard. Nintendo said in response to Nintendo Life asking about it, they gave a statement that they're restocking it, right?
Yeah. To meet fan demand is what they said. I think they underestimated just how many people wanted to buy this remaster, which is insane. Because, I feel like they have undercut this game constantly. I mean, it's which makes sense. The Metroid series has never been a great seller, but it's they priced it at 40, where people would have gladly paid 60 for this. They didn't stock well enough, but if anything, this is just really good news, that there's actually demand for this and that people really, really want to, get copies of this. And I think a lot of those people probably double dipped as well, especially if they're Metroid fans.
Yep.
There was a bit of news I read about how I think Hogwarts Legacy just barely eked out first week sales for Metroid Prime Remastered, which in and of itself is also crazy because that game has been selling crazy numbers.
And
right?
you can get it on multiple platforms.
And you can get it on multiple platforms, and Metroid Prime Remastered released digitally 2 weeks before the physical version, and they're only counting the physical versions, right? So there's like a lot of different ways that's showing that this remaster of Metroid Prime might, could very well be the highest selling Metroid game up to this point. And that would only be really, really good news for the series going forward, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a second. And then hopefully, culminating in the big release of Metroid Prime 4 for the Switch.
Yes. So, in other Metroid news, we already knew that Metroid Fusion was going to be coming at some point to the Game Boy Advance NSO app, or I should say NSO Plus expansion pack app, right? Because the Game Boy Advance is only if you pay the extra money. But we got a date. So this is, I guess, is the first, update to these apps that we know of. It's March 9th, day we're about to talk about a couple times. I don't know why Nintendo is packing so much on March 9th, but maybe I don't know.
I think I know.
You think you know?
Well, it's March 9th for us is
Mario.
March 10th. March
Japan.
10th in Japan. Yeah. So
It's Metroid. Oh.
All right. That's enough of that. That's enough out of you.
So if like me, you've never played Metroid Fusion and you're excited to have this is like a great time to be a Metroid fan, especially one who maybe is more casual and can play some of these games now in legal ways.
Yeah, I haven't played any Metroid games, and I've heard only great things about them. So you both have played several Metroid games, correct?
Yeah, I've only honestly played a few, like through all the way, but yeah.
Is that a good starting point?
Yeah, I think any of them are a good starting point, to be honest. I think Prime Remastered would be a great starting point as well, right? I think the best starting point is not the one that they're dropping on GB. Like if it was like an optimal one to start with, it would probably be Metroid Zero Mission, which was a remake of the NES game that's also for Game Boy Advance. That hasn't been announced that it's coming to Nintendo Switch Online. I get why. Metroid 1 for the NES is already on NSO, right? So
you can play Super Mario Brothers 3 6 different ways on NSO.
Yeah, that's true. So. That's true. Yeah, so maybe that's not a great example, but you know what I'm saying. Either way, there isn't really a bad Metroid game to start with, other than maybe, ironically, the very first one for the NES, because it hasn't aged particularly well. That's why Zero Mission is so good, right? It like takes the first one and adds a bunch of quality of life. Basically from Fusion, like to that game and makes it a lot more playable, right? But that said, Fusion is a great game to start with. It's the game that's directly before Dread, right? Like Fusion is Metroid 4 and Metroid Dread is Metroid 5, right? So it's like, and a lot of stuff, now I don't want to get too spoilery, but a lot of stuff that happens in the latter half in Dread got its start from Fusion, right? So it's like that's definitely a great 1-2 punch of games right there, which is why a lot of people were really hoping they'd release Fusion before Dread, but whatever. But no, it's a great game. It's super easy to pick up and play. It like is a little more handholdy than some of the like fully Metroidvania Metroid games. Like it kind of starts like a little. It's not like, oh, here's a big world and you can go anywhere on the map. It's kind of like segmented a little bit more. So it's and then it opens up the more that it goes and you do more backtracking and stuff like that. So Fusion is a great one to start with. And back in the day, Fusion and Metroid Prime for the GameCube released like, I think 1 day apart from each other, right? Or on the same day even. So it's really great having both of them on the Switch releasing so close together. Yeah, they're really not a bad game to start playing the Metroid series with.
Excellent.
Nice.
We'll remember that.
And before we move on from Metroid 2, I just think like there's a pretty clear cadence happening here, right? Like I can't tell if this was Nintendo's plan to have Fusion be the first game that they release of the Game Boy Advance games. I didn't expect to see a new Game Boy Advance game added so soon.
It's fast, yeah.
After they launched it, right? So I can't tell if this is all part of a plan to keep releasing Metroid stuff and then culminating in Metroid Prime 4 maybe at the end of the year. Or, including like the other Prime games, like being remastered maybe by Iron Galaxy. Or if they were just like, holy shit, Prime Remastered is doing better than we thought. Let's put out Fusion now while the iron's hot. Right. You know what I mean? But either way, it seems like there's some machination there. Right. And that it's like kind of, they're using NSO as this kind of like extra pillar of marketing for the franchise, which is really, really cool.
I
don't know what you guys think about
agree.
that.
No, I 100% agree with you, because when I saw that this game was coming again so quickly to the GBA platform, my initial reaction was, wow, Metroid has got some momentum here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And again, kind of my like intuition was maybe this might not only culminate in the game that we've all been hoping for, but also maybe a TV series of some sort.
Let's go. I would love that so much. Yes. I'm very much down for that.
They're definitely pushing it a lot right now, and unexpected ways, like kind of out of nowhere. It's
No, and it's really refreshing and kind of nice, because it's like, we've seen how they treat franchises that don't sell particularly well. They'll say fuck it and release like 3 or 4 more Kirby games before they'll release an F-Zero or a Star Fox or something like that, right? So it's like, even though Metroid hasn't been this amazing seller, you can tell they have a lot of faith in the franchise. Or maybe they've just put so much money into Metroid Prime 4, they're like, we need to push the marketing on this to make it worth it. But either way, it's good
keep
if you're
it
a
in
Metroid
people's
fan.
eyes, and how can we dole this out?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I also feel like they must know that the Metroid franchise has a pretty strong fan base, because even though it maybe hasn't been one of their best-selling games, the people who have played it seem really hardcore and really loyal to it. So with that in mind, I mean, for instance, I've already mentioned that I haven't played it, but it's a game that I'm interested in playing and already feel like I know a lot about, just because I've heard you guys talking so much about it, as well as other gamers. I mean, I know who Samus is, and I've never even played the game. So that says something about the franchise, about the fans, and the power behind that.
Totally. And I'm very jealous that both of y'all will get to play Metroid Fusion or Metroid Prime for the first time. Amazing games.
Well, we're going to move on to a bunch of Mario news. We'll a bunch of stuff's happening. We'll kind of talk about it, I guess, sequentially, and then maybe kind of talk about what's going on here. But first up is the Mario Kart booster pack, Wave 4, whatever it's called, booster course pack. I can't ever say it right. But the DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is coming out on March 9th. We're getting 8 new courses and Birdo added. And not only just Birdo, whatever color Birdo you want.
Wild. Although there were a bunch of different colored Birdos in Super Mario Brothers 2, right? It's not just a pink Birdo.
Oh, is that
right? Am I crazy?
I only remember pink, but that being said, I could have missed it somewhere.
It's been a while since I've played past the first part of Super Mario Brothers 2, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're getting a few different city courses, and then an all new course this time around too, right?
Yeah, the Yoshi Island course. That looks really good.
Yeah, Yoshi's Island looks really great, obviously. I think some of the standouts from this, DK Summit is a great Wii course that has a lot of cool half-pipe shenaniganery. We're getting another GBA game, a GBA course in Riverside Park, which I think looks cool. I like to see the GBA courses come to this because that game was so basic and flat. And so having any kind of change to that, really radically changes those courses, which is really cool. We're actually getting a GameCube stage. I feel like those have been some of the hardest ones to come here, even though there's a lot of great GameCube courses in Mario Kart Tour. But we're getting Waluigi Stadium. And then the takeaway for me here is we're getting 3 city courses this drop, which I kind of don't like because those are my least favorite courses, right? But you know, these are all kind of cool. We're getting 2 like Asian cities in Singapore and Bangkok, and then Amsterdam is in the first cup. So this just shows to me that they're definitely going to be dropping all of the city courses. Like, they're not going to leave any out. You know, if they doubled up this time, you know, that's definitely going to be like that. But I'm very excited to play more Mario Kart expansion pass.
Yeah. You know, they have mentioned that there might be new characters. Do you want new characters, Ivy? Are you excited about new characters, or is it just the tracks? Are you set with your main on Mario Kart?
I'm pretty set with my main. I'm not gonna lie. My main is Waluigi.
Very good.
For people listening on the podcast, I've got a little Waluigi plush with me here.
He's very handsome.
He is handsome. He can sit right on my shoulder.
Yeah, there we go.
It's kind of like Elf on a Shelf, but Waluigi on a shoulder.
Yeah. Waluigi on a Waldman.
Yes, that's perfect. That totally works. He likes it too. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the new characters. I'll probably play them like once or twice just to see their different animations. But mostly I'm excited for the new courses. Just not only the brand new Yoshi's Island course, but for me, all of these courses will be new because I've never played any of them on any of the other systems. Nice. I have a pretty big gap between I played Mario Kart 64. Oh, there he goes. I played Mario Kart 64, and then I hadn't played Mario Kart until Mario Kart 8 Deluxe when I got my Switch. Mm-hmm. So I have a lot to catch up on. Yeah.
I mean, for me too, it's like I pretty much play as my me whenever I play. There's a couple reasons for that. One, I'm a narcissist. 2, I just like me's and I want me's to come back, and I like playing as me's. It seems, you know, you can customize character. And then also, I don't think a lot of people know this, but the weight class that your me is in is dependent on the size that you make them in the me creator, right? So if you make a me at the tallest, it'll be in the heavy weight class in Mario Kart, right? So I like playing as heavy characters in Mario Kart because I like to bang into people if I need to.
That's why I play as Waluigi, because he's also a heavier. He's not the heaviest weight class, but he's heavy. And right. When I saw that Birdo was going to be one of the characters, have they announced what weight class she'll be?
I don't think so. Yeah. So I'm curious. I would imagine she'll be medium, like Yoshi. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would assume so. But I mean, Birdo's also like kind of big, a little chunky.
She's a big girl.
Yeah, she's a big girl. We love Birdo. But yeah, so we'll see. It kind of depends on that. I generally just play as characters that aren't my me whenever I'm at a friend's house and do not have my me on their system.
Well, and with
I'll
Birdo
play as Birdo
specifically,
then.
Yeah. Because Rosalina, believe it or not, is considered a heavy character.
Which, she's a big too.
Yeah, which is a surprise because I mean, Peach and Daisy are both, I believe, medium class characters.
Yeah, but Rosalina's
so
big.
Maybe just to have another. She is tall.
She's got the universe under her dress.
Yeah,
it's canonical. Yeah.
Very heavy.
Yeah.
A lot of weight on her shoulders.
Yeah.
Anyway,
undergarments. Yeah.
Anyway, we should move on. More Mario stuff. We already talked about this. The Mario movie is getting its own direct also on March 9th. So just a reminder, March 9th, which is the day after this podcast comes out, is a bunch of Mario stuff's happening. What that direct is going to be like, who knows? We know they're going to play the last trailer. But one sort of piece of news that came out I guess it was this week, is that they're moving up the release date for the movie. But before you get too excited, it's only 2 days, which I guess counts as a move up. I don't know, you know what I mean? Technically,
it quite literally is. Yeah,
but it doesn't feel like we're moving it up to Wednesday instead of Friday or whatever. Has Wednesday become the new Friday movie releases? I feel like
pretty much,
right? Because it used to be midnight on Thursday so that you could and then it became like, well, we might as well just have showings before midnight on Thursday and then midnight on Thursday, right? Isn't this the slow? Mm-hmm. Eventually it's going to loop back around.
Yeah. This feels like they probably were going to do this anyway. You know what I mean? But they're just like saying that they're doing it now as part of the marketing for it. You know what I mean? I think a lot of movies do this. I think Marvel movies now tend to come out like Thursdays at like 6 or 5 or something like that. Some movies do come out like even a day earlier. So it might even be like midnight release on like Wednesday or something like that. I don't think tickets have gone on sale for this movie yet, right? So it's like, so we'll see whenever they come out, like what that actually means. But either way, fuck it. I'll take it.
Wednesday night.
Yeah, I'll go. If it does come out on a Wednesday night, I will not be streaming that night. I'll tell you that much. I'm going to be in the theater with either a Mario or Sonic costume on.
I was about to say, are you going to go dressed up as either Mario or Sonic? Because
I bought some like overalls, and I have a little Mario hat and a red shirt and gloves that I bought for a Halloween costume once. And I shaved a mustache to be Mario. So maybe I'll do that this time. I don't know. Play your cards right. Let's see what happens.
I hope so. Wow, that'll be fun.
There'll be a lot of Marios at a midnight release of this movie. I bet there would be like 30% Marios in the audience. Yeah.
Which might make it funny if Sonic shows up.
Yeah. Unless there's some other cheeky son of a bitch who has the same idea. And then we look like assholes. But if it's one guy, you're cool. But if two guys show up as Sonic, then we're both just assholes. Yeah.
Well, maybe he'll show up as Tails.
Oh, that would be perfect. If you're listening to this right now, please hit me up.
All right. The other piece of Mario news that we got is the Mario bundle that's coming. So they've announced that if you don't own a Switch and and you're going to see this movie and you're excited, you can get the red Joy-Cons that they sold back with Odyssey, right? And that version of the Switch, and you get to choose either Mario Kart 8 Deluxe or New Soup, right? Or Odyssey. I guess in some regions, I think I heard that's not option isn't there, but at least in the US, this bundle that's coming out on 3/10, which we should say is March 10th, which I guess because Mar and then 10 looks like Mario has officially now become a Nintendo thing. I think it kind of started as a fan thing, right?
Yeah. It was kind of like Star Wars Day.
Yeah,
like you remember
May 4th
May 4th, May the 4th be with you. Like it was just like something that fans did because they thought it was funny. And then like they started dropping all their toys on that day and stuff like that. So now Nintendo's doing the same thing, which is a smart move. Yeah.
Yeah. So any speculation about March 10th? Do we think there'll be any other things that happen? Or do we think it's just the movie direct and this bundle's coming out? Any surprises? No.
I mean, there's more shit happening on like the 9th and 10th, right? Like, like Capcom is doing a presentation on the 9th. Fucking, who's the Professor Layton developers? Yeah, Level 5. Like they're doing a presentation on the 9th. There's just like so much happening this weekend. I really don't think that Nintendo is going to announce anything else. We already know we've just the last 3 stories have been all stuff that's happening over these 2 days. Like I don't think we'll get any more surprises. That would be great if we did, but it's like the news cycle is going to be really, really packed during that time anyway. So I think releasing any new stuff is probably not a great idea.
Well, I can hold out.
I don't really foresee them releasing anything new other than what they've already announced. But wishful thinking, and more than anything, for your sake, David, I wish they would drop Super Mario 35 again. Just be like, surprise, everyone.
Yeah, I'm just not gonna ever predict that because when it doesn't happen, I'll just want to die.
And we don't want that.
It's the only thing I have going in this world was my dedication to Super Mario Bros. 35. That's not true. I live a very happy life. But no, I mean, this is cool to see a bundle that's not just Mario Kart. It's Mario Kart or 2 other things. Games all of us probably already have, right? But this is for people that don't have a Switch already, right? So it's a good one. And then also on March 10th as well, a bunch of Mario games are all going on sale for like $40. So you've got your pick of stuff. It's nice to see these things go on sale, and I'm happy to see them.
All right. Well, we're moving on to the Switch Pro, the Switch 2, whatever we want to call this. These leaks have continued to happen, which there's a lot of smoke. There's probably some fire, right? So this most recent round is somebody in manufacturing, right? I guess somebody who works in a factory in China shared some information. Is that what it was, or was it? They didn't share any pictures? They just
I don't think so. Yeah,
they posted somewhere. I think maybe on a Chinese forum, right? About it, and that was like taken down by Nintendo. Like Nintendo sent that forum or what have you, takedown order. So it was nicely summed up on Reset Era by somebody about exactly kind of a summary of what happened. Right. So,
I mean, this is the same guy, I think, that leaked the Switch Lite, right? And the Switch OLED with photos. You remember those? Like when the Switch Lite photos leaked beforehand. I think this is the same guy who posted those images on the forum, and he was just like kind of shadow banned like immediately, or excuse me, perma banned at the request of Nintendo. So it's, I think they just know this guy like keeps fucking like posting stuff, and so get him out.
How does he still have a job? That's what I want to know.
That's a great question. Yeah. Well, probably they don't know exactly who it is. They're just like banning his account, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much smoke. I mean, like obviously another Switch is coming at some point. It's just like when
and
is
what
the question?
Is it a true successor, or is it an upgrade? Or does it blur those lines?
MVG put out a really great video this morning that I watched that was about what backwards compatibility would look like on a Switch 2. Did you watch that?
No,
Patrick?
I'm just like, that's something I'm like super hopeful for.
Well, I mean, it's and MVG is a developer himself, so he knows this kind of stuff. He gets what like the hardware would need and like how the games are actually made and how they utilize the Tegra X1 chip that's like within the Switch currently, right? And a lot of those games are made very specifically for this X1. There are obviously a lot of them are ported from x86 or excuse me x64 based like computer stuff, like all the modern consoles are, right? But Switch is different. It's like an ARM processor. It's like a mobile chip, right? So you have to do some porting in order to do that. So whatever the next chip is for the next Switch, it's not necessarily going to just be one-to-one. It's just going to support them, right? And he kind of goes through a number of different things. One of them is like, are they just going to put an X1 chip in? That's kind of how Nintendo's done backwards compatibility in the past. Like the Wii just has a GameCube chip in it, and the DS basically just had a Game Boy Advance in it. You know what I mean? Just the motherboard or whatever that's needed to run the games, right? So it's like, that's a way to do it. But would that make the system like way too expensive? Are they going to do emulation as an alternative or something like that? So I think these are all kind of like questions that it's like, this I think gives you a little bit of insight, because I'm with you, Patrick. I don't think that this next Switch is going to be incompatible with the previous generation, right? But I think that does then make you ask yourself, like, what is this next thing going to be viewed as by Nintendo, right? And like, how are they going to actually improve it? And what are they going to do with it, right? Now I know I'm just fucking asking a bunch of questions and I have no information here, so I apologize. But I think these are interesting questions to ask, and it's been making me think all day, like, about what a successor would look like and when they would drop it.
Yeah. Well, we don't know, but it definitely seems like it's being pushed along on some level, right? Whether this is actual production or sort of like test production or whatever, probably test, but
I'm the more time that goes by this year, the more I think we're going to hear something this year about another system. I don't think I released this year.
If we heard something this year, when do you think it would theoretically release? Just, obviously pure speculation, but what would your intuition be?
I mean, the easy answer I would think is March 2024, right?
Yeah, March, April.
Yeah, and then that would be a solid 7 years with the Switch, which is a pretty good lifespan for a console, right? That's pretty long for a Nintendo console's lifespan already. The Wii U is dramatically shorter than that, but for obvious reasons. But you know what I mean? It's like a lot of stuff is, I think the GameCube's lifespan was what, like 5 or 6 years?
I don't know. But that can lead us.
Which,
sorry, go
if
ahead.
it did, in theory, release, basically a year from now, March 2024, that would kind of lend to the idea that it would be backwards compatible. Because, I mean, for instance, Splatoon has said that Splatoon 3 will have content coming for the, next 2 years or so.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Well, what a lot of people are talking about is that I think what Jeff Grubb has been saying, and take this with a grain of salt, although, Jeff Grubb gets a lot of stuff right. But we do like to call him Hot Air Grubb. But did we call him that? I think we called him something else. I don't remember. But he blows a lot of hot air.
He talks a lot. That's part of it. But so do we.
Flappy Mouth Grubb. That's what we call him.
That was it.
Yeah. But Flappy Joe. I like that. That's like I called Joe Biden. I don't know why I said that. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, he's been saying that it's more like a Game Boy to Game Boy Color kind of revision, right? Where Nintendo views Game Boy and Game Boy Color in the same pool.
Yeah.
Right. But it is a new system. Like it has beyond just a color palette. The capabilities of the Game Boy Color far surpass the original Game Boy, right? So I would imagine it would be something like that, and then that would definitely need an X1 chip in there.
And they can call it a Switch and sell a ton of them, and it'd be the best-selling console ever.
But there will be exclusives, right? There will be games that are exclusive to this new Switch, right?
Most things I think, going forward or whatever, probably.
I think that's probably the best way to do it. I think the idea of a console generation is starting to die anyway. Right. So fuck it. Just keep iterating and doing stuff like that. And the Switch 7 will have all the previous processors in it.
You're
a fat, chunky, hot piece of tech. Yeah.
Well, all this leads us to something that we haven't mentioned yet to kind of close out our news, right? Which is that the Switch turned 6. It's been around for a full 6 years, actually more than that now, because March 3rd happened a few days ago. March 3rd, 2017 is the day the Switch released. So it is in its 7th year of existence. Just had its 6th anniversary or birthday or whatever we want to call it. So we definitely have to pay a little bit of attention to this and talk about, we just talked about, the future, but maybe we can talk a little bit about the past or a little bit, about the Switch turning 6. How do y'all feel? Like any reflections on the fact that this thing has been around for 6 years? Does that seem crazy? Does that seem right?
Well, I've only been a Switch owner for about just a little over 2 years, and I can honestly say that life is better with a Switch, and specifically as a Switch head.
Nice.
And I mean that for real though. I look forward to playing my Switch every day. I look forward to interacting with y'all every day. It's just, life really is better with a Switch. And I think it was DCD on the Switch's 6th birthday a few days ago. He posted in the Discord. He was like, happy 6th birthday to the Switch. He was like, what are everyone's top 6 games? And it was fun. It was hard to just pick 6, but for me, if I had to narrow it down, Splatoon would be one of them. And this is in no particular order. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Super Mario 3D All-Stars, and Animal Crossing.
Oh, very good. Yeah, that's a solid group. Yeah, fuck. I didn't really prepare my list of 6, but it would probably be a good amount of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Mario Kart, I think like the 6 like essentials, right, would be like Smash, Kart, Splatoon, I would say, if shooters at all interest you, right? Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, and then
Animal
what would that
Crossing?
last one be? Animal Crossing, I guess, right? I feel like that's pretty much like, that's their pillars, right? I mean, that's going to change with Tears of the Kingdom coming out, right? But I think even then, you'd probably want to start with Breath of the Wild before you play Tears of the Kingdom, right? For like new Switch owners.
It's been really nice on our Discord seeing all the people post their list of 6, and a lot of them are those games. But I have to give a shout out to Robert Segovia, whose top 6 is just bizarre.
Well, it's not bizarre.
It's all tactical strategy games. It's like Banner Saga, Triangle Strategy, XCOM, Stardew Valley, interestingly. And then to bring it back to tactical games, Fire Emblem and Mario Rabbids. Segovia, thanks for being you.
Yeah.
Everyone else is like Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, and he's like,
well, it's like, I have like more personal ones that I enjoy more. You know what I mean? Like Tetris 99 is like probably my most played game on the Switch. I play the fuck out of every Picross game. You know what I mean? Like I've got games that are like way more my speed, but it's like, if you're given a list of like the 6 games that are like essential for anybody to pick up, like six games that everyone should own, basically, like those are those, I think, for me. Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, I love the thing. I truly think that, this is probably the best Nintendo system of all time. I think like they really, really, really nailed it. It's like every other, and don't get me wrong, I love the Super Nintendo. I think the Super Nintendo, like I would have said, was the greatest Nintendo system of all time. But it's like all those games are on the Switch, and like and like even past that, it's like, like I feel like the Switch has gotten the best incarnations of all these like legendary franchises.
Totally.
It's sold the best. It's in the cultural zeitgeist. I remember before the Switch came out, I was like telling my friends, I was like, just you watch, dude. This is going to be like the DS, right? Because you remember the DS, like everybody had a DS. It like really went beyond gamers. It was like everyone I knew just had a DS, right? And I was like, watch this, dude. The Switch is going to be like the fucking DS. Everyone's going to have one. And now they do. It's like people that I talk to all the time that are not gamers at all. I'm like, do you have a Switch? And like, oh yeah, I have a Switch. I play at least Animal Crossing on it and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's really gotten to that point, which is amazing.
Yeah, and to Ivy's point or comment that, Ivy, you said you only got it a couple of years ago. My son has a friend who comes over and plays Switch with him, and I was talking to her mom or his mom afterwards, and she was like, "Yeah, we'll probably get a Switch soon." Like, there's still people out there who don't have it and are buying it. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah,
totally.
Well, and I think that's one of the things the Switch does so beautifully is it works for any generation, whether it's someone your son's age, whether it's someone in our age group, or whether it's even someone in an older age group. And I mean, for our age group specifically, it is just like pure gold because we have access not only to all these brand new games, but also to all the retro games that we have such nostalgia for.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And for people that haven't been gamers their whole lives, it's like, here's a fucking crash course in some of the best games ever made. I think like IGN was doing a thing where they were talking about like, what would the 3 or like the 4 or something, whatever, like most crucial games to get for your Switch be? And some of them were just like, does Nintendo Switch Online count? Because at this point, it's like, there's a really, really solid collection of games in there, right? Like all.
Oh, it totally counts because like I said, I mean, I've had mine just a little bit over 2 years. And that first year, I spent a lot of time on both the NES and the Super NES apps, playing through all of the Marios, like 100%ing them, just playing through games that I had heard about but never actually played before. And it was almost like I was kind of making up for lost time. And it felt really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tetris 99. You get Tetris 99.
And Tetris 99.
Come on, everybody play with me. Yeah, I mean, maybe some like real quick like memories we could say about. I mean, that was something that I really enjoyed in the Discord about like when we got our Switches. Did you? I know you've said now, Ivy, you got yours like a couple years ago. Patrick, when did you get your Switch?
Yeah, well, I've told this story on the podcast 2 or 3 times, I feel like, but we'll tell it again.
It's an anniversary.
David and I did a comedy show together where we did like a sketch together. And in the green room beforehand, David was playing his Switch. So this was, I feel like it was maybe spring or summer of 2017. So it had been out, I don't really know, for a few months at least. I don't know when you got yours exactly, David, but
yeah.
And you were playing Sonic.
Well, mine was about. I feel like I got mine about 6 months into the release. I think I got
maybe it was even the fall.
Yeah, I think it was like fall of 2017. Yeah,
and I think I saw you play Sonic Mania in the green room, and I was like blown away by just the visuals of it and the idea that you're sitting here in the green room next to me playing this. And so I went out and got one that fall. Like they were hard to find. around that
Yeah.
time. And then they started not being hard to find, but I didn't know that. And I saw them in stores. I was like, yeah, then I got to get that.
That's how they get you. Artificial scarcity.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I got mine. I didn't get mine right away. I mean, I told this story in the Discord, so if you're in the Discord, apologies for repeating myself. But it's like, like when the Switch launched, it launched with Breath of the Wild, obviously, right? But that also released on Wii U. And I had a Wii U, and all I really wanted to do was play Breath of the Wild. I was like so pumped for that game. I thought it looked incredible. So I went to Walmart at midnight to pick up Breath of the Wild for Wii U on disc, right? I was like the only one there buying it, even though it was a very popular game. Everybody was getting Switches, right? But, I was like, that's fine. I mean, I've got this like huge game I'm going to play, and I still really enjoy my Wii U. Like, I don't think I need to get the Switch right away. But it was like, you get that FOMO like over time, and you start to realize, and especially as more and more games were coming out for it, it was like, yeah, I think the thing that was holding me back is that I saw a lot of the games that they were releasing were re-releases of Wii U games that I already owned, right? Like even like Splatoon 2, I was like, that basically just looks like Splatoon 1, right? But it wasn't really. And in fact, I sold a lot of my Wii U games when I bought them digitally on the Switch, including my original copy of Splatoon. I sold when I bought Splatoon 1. I really regret that, by the way, because I really miss Splatoon 1. There's a lot of really cool stuff in that game. But yeah, it was basically by the time I got it, it was starting to get kind of hard to get them. And I was really getting that FOMO. And so I bought one off of like UK Amazon, and it was like shipped to me, and it took like a while to get to me, but I really wanted to get one. I wanted to make sure that I got one. And then and then by the time it got to me from the UK, which the shipping was like normal shipping, it wasn't like super expensive to ship it, but it was like by the time it got to me, I had seen one pop up on Prime Now and like snatched it right away. So now all of a sudden, like I bought the second Switch, and then like 3 days later, the other Switch came. So I now had like 2 Switches. So I had to sell one to a friend. But that was great. And then I got my friend really into Switch, and that friend still plays all the time, which is really, really cool. So it was just like really, there was a moment where it was just super hype, and it was like, I think Nintendo was doing really good marketing, but I think it's like word of mouth has always been the like main seller of the Switch. I think people are just really happy with it and tell all their friends to get it.
Totally. That's what like I was just talking about, where my kid's friend's mom came in, saw them playing, and was like, well, we're gonna get one of those,
Yeah.
like,
yeah. Especially with a Switch Lite now, $200 for a Switch Lite. Like that's a pretty low barrier to entry.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that does it then for our news, right? So
for shadow topic number 1.
Yeah, so we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking all about the recent updates to Splatoon 3 and check in on how that game is going for us. We are back, and we are talking this week about Splatoon 3. So Splatoon 3 just had its second big update, Fresh Season. So a bunch of stuff was added, and the game has been out now for approximately 6 months. So we thought we would do sort of this episode, we just sort of talk about both updates for Chill Season and Fresh Season, and sort of the system of updates. And the specifics of those updates, and also just kind of check in about how Splatoon 3 is doing half a year later. And I'm so glad that you're here with us, Ivy, to talk about this. AVK got to come on and talk with us when the game released. I think you and AVK are just like the Splatoon heads.
And Ty.
Oh, that's
Let's
true.
not forget Ty Typos.
There's several people, actually. That's true. Tyson and a bunch of other people actually play quite a bit too, but yeah.
But thank you. Yeah, it's a huge honor to be here because I absolutely adore this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can just start with some in general, like that. Like, it's been out for 6 months. That's, sometimes when you might drop a game, especially a game like this, you get into it for a while and then you drop it. But how are we feeling? I think all three of us have played quite a bit of Splatoon 3.
Yeah, I checked the other day. I've got just about 200 hours in Splatoon 3 right now,
Ivy,
which is a lot for a game.
Ivy, how many hours? Ivy's got to have like 700. Like, what is it?
Actually, I have 805.
Let's go.
So
I was wrong.
I love the game.
Nice.
Hey, don't worry. I know people. I don't know people, but I know of people that have put like multiple thousands of hours into Splatoon 3 already, which is like basically a third of the time
24/7
that the game has been out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's a very addictive game for a lot of people. Yeah.
Well, and some of the people that I have randomly become friends with, like I have no way of like messaging them, but like I've become friends with them through the game. And they are some people like that who have, I mean, gosh, there's this one girl and she's an incredibly good player.
Oh, I would imagine
she
so.
easily has like 2,000 hours into it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not sure if like maybe some of the time she just like
left
has
it
the game on all
yeah.
the time. She can just like pick it up whenever she wants to. But yeah, it's pretty impressive the numbers people have out there.
So obviously we're all loving it. What's keeping us playing 6 months in? Is it these updates? Is it just the core gameplay? Is it the community? Like, what do y'all think?
I think it's all of that, right? I think like I think it's really it helps that we have a lot of people within our own community that actively play the game all the time, right? I think that's really great. I think the whole like kind of free to play game as a service style that they're, even though it's not one of these, it's not like a game that's filled with microtransactions, you know, but it just is a game that continuously drip feeds content and unlocks and stuff like that. It feels good to unlock stuff as you go through, right? You know, I think that really helps. And then I think also just in general, Splatoon fans are like really cool and interesting and weird people. You know what I mean? It's like a very like I it's just so amazing that Nintendo has an online multiplayer competitive shooter at all, you know? And it's like, you know, I am not a big fan of like the military shooters, you know, I just don't like that aesthetic. And I think that the fan base is often very toxic for games like that. Or not that I wish Splatoon, not that I'm like happy Splatoon doesn't have voice chat, right? I kind of wish it did with randoms, but it's like on games like that, you know, you're always going to, you know, get called some really unsavory words by some 14-year-olds or something like that, you know? And it's like, even if Splatoon did have voice chat, I feel like it wouldn't be as bad as a game like Call of Duty or something like that, right? Because like the community at large is just different, right? But it's still got the hooks in it that gets people addicted to like COD or Battlefield or whatever, you know, whatever online games people are playing these days that I'm checked out from, right?
One of the beauties too of Splatoon is like, yes, technically it's a shooter game, but it doesn't feel like a shooter game. I mean, for instance, like I'm a relatively new gamer. I didn't even know there was a genre of game that was a shooter game. Right. And like, I mean, Splatoon attracted me, number one, because it's bright and colorful and it just looks fun and quirky and crazy. I didn't know it was a shooter game. I just figured, you know, when I picked up Splatoon 2, it was because it looked like fun. I had no idea what it was, no understanding of how to play it, but I was like, I want to try this. And I loved it, mostly because it was bright and colorful and quirky and crazy and fun.
Yeah. It's got a reach beyond a lot of even Nintendo first party games, right? It's like, I think there's a lot of people like you, Ivy, and I know a lot of people like you that aren't even, and not you. I mean, clearly you're a gamer, but I know a lot of non-gamers too that are like, holy shit, like this is like a fun online game, but like they wouldn't have ever played a game like that, but they were just drawn in by the aesthetic and by the kind of like weirdo nature of it, right? And I think it's got a really great draw that kind of like goes beyond any kind of normal demographic for this genre of game, right? And I think that's so special about Splatoon.
Oh, now we're just talking about
Splatoon.
It also
has that like whole like Japanese aesthetic of like, you know, like Harajuku Square and like just like kind of like the idea of like in this game, the square, in previous games like Inkopolis, like this one central location where everyone who's anyone just like hangs out, and like some people are, you know, some social, other people are kind of just like chilling, doing their own thing, and it's cool whatever you choose to do, and like that is also really attractive.
Yeah, it's cool. Whatever you choose to do, even if it's never playing the single player like me.
Yeah.
Well, we're just talking about Splatoon, which is great because I think it makes sense. That's what keeps this game vibrant, is that we're talking about the core experience of it. And I think something that's also core to the experience that we didn't mention yet is the inking, the swimming in your own ink, and how that's not, otherwise you could say the game is like a lot of other shooters, but that mechanic is so different and weird and unique to this game. Like there's not a lot of games where you can do anything like that that I can think of, but
it just feels good to play, right?
It does. It really does.
Like the whole cycle of shooting and then reloading by having increased movement option is just brilliant. You know what I mean? It's like the reason people love Mario Odyssey so much is like not because of like the cool moons that you can collect or the story or the graphics. People like Mario Odyssey because it just feels fun to run around and jump and throw your hat and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that at the end of the day is what makes this game so addictive. It's just the game feel is out of this world.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so amazing too that they're able to make it feel different depending on what type of weapon you have. I mean, if you have a heavier weapon, it's going to be a little bit harder to swim, and you can feel that like in the gameplay.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are just so many little nuances like that make this game so interesting and constantly challenging and fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe we can talk about the updates then. We'll start with the newest round because that's sort of fresh on the mind, and then we can maybe spiral out to just sort of the general concept of updates and stuff. But how are we feeling about this newest round of updates? What do y'all think about, like, I don't know, we can start with like the weapons and the specials and stuff maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I personally haven't used too many of the new weapons, but I have seen them in matches, and having new weapons to play against is kind of just as exciting as having a new weapon yourself to use. You know, I'm like a pretty like, I have my loadout in Mario Kart 8 that I stick with, and I just try to like get good at that, right? It's kind of the same with Splatoon. It's like I kind of like to stay in my lane as far as like the kind of weapons I use, but like I love all the new specials, right? So obviously there's the Kraken, which is returning from Splatoon 2 as a special move. But I think my favorite new one is that the Super Chump, which is like really interesting and cool in how it works. And it's not exactly what I thought it would be, right? Because what I thought it would be was like a thing that drops and you very clearly can tell like, oh, or it tricks you into thinking that somebody's jumping there. And there's a little bit of that, but moreover, it just spams so much of the stage or like an area that you pick with like drop points. And then you have to like shoot them before they blow up so they don't just ink a huge portion of the map, right? So I thought it was going to be way more like you fire on it, it doesn't go away, and then it blows up in your face and you're an idiot. But it's way more like an ink covering mechanism, and especially in a mode like Splat Zones, which is like an anarchy mode that I've been playing a lot more recently. Like that's a great special for that, right? So I love that kind of stuff. That's really exciting to me.
Well, and it's really interesting to see because I've both used the new specials and also have encountered them, you know, being played against me or as a teammate. And with the Super Chump specifically, it's really, really interesting to see where, when, and how people choose to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of it is dependent on the mode. Because, I mean, like what you were saying, David, I mean, Splat Zones is kind of like a given, like, oh, I can see how this could totally be effective, at least in, you know, reclaiming the zone just to get it for a second or two, which can be critical. But in a mode like tower control, for instance, where I didn't think it would be that helpful, it actually can be, when it's being used against you, it can be such a huge distraction that while like you're trying to like shoot all the little balloons before they go off, they can, you know, kind of like reclaim their turf and like regain control of the tower and like just really mess with you. Another one that was a really clever way of using it that I've only seen done once, and I'm not even sure I would know how to execute it properly, is someone used the special like against me and actually super jumped into the mix
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
a good idea. And like, it's a risk in the sense that like, sure, like you could get shot at, like, because people are shooting all the balloons, but because there's so much going on, they were able to super jump into that chaos. And basically, like, because it wasn't chaos for them, it was chaos for us, the other team. They were able to, you know, essentially flank us and come up behind us.
Yeah, I think the meta for the Super Jump special is still growing, right? Like, we'll see more like what the like best way to use this item is going forward. But yeah,
it's interesting too, because the two weapons that it dropped with during this most recent update were the NZAP 89, which is a pretty easy to use shooter, and the Clash Blaster, which of blasters, the Clash Blaster is one of the easier ones to use because it has a higher fire rate. It doesn't have a lot of range, but the fire rate is, you know, it almost feels like a shooter does. So they're very user-friendly weapons that, especially the NZAP, really inks a lot of turf pretty quickly. So, you know, like if you're just trying to farm special just to like A, use it against the other team, or B, figure out how you want to like use it in different ways of using it. It's a great, you know, the two weapon options that it has are great for doing that.
We also got some new stages, you know, with both season updates, we've gotten 2 new stages.
Well, and can we, before we go on stages, let's talk about the Kraken a little bit, just because it is, Super Chump is interesting, but the Kraken is really interesting.
I just find it more annoying than anything.
Oh, it's 100% annoying. And like, the two weapons that it has are the Crack-On roller, which is basically the same as the Splat roller, but like with the sub is a beacon, which is a good sub, and the Kraken
is that a good
special.
Sub? Like
it depends the mode. So
okay, that's fair.
For turf war, maybe not as much unless you have one of those really long, narrow maps. If you can, if it's a long and narrow map, and if you can get a few beacons towards their base, it's an easy way to super jump back to that if you or your teammates get splatted. So like you don't have to make that long swim all the way down Eel Tail Alley if you've got a few beacons down at the end.
That's fair.
Beacons are also really helpful in tower control.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of place them according to where the tower is and, you know, push the tower forward. And, you know, as long as your teammates know to jump back to them when they get splatted, like it can help you kind of like keep the ground that you've already covered. So beacons can be really effective. Yeah. I didn't fully understand them 6 months ago when the game came out. Yeah. It's only something that I've learned to notice and to jump to when I see them on a map.
It's one of those items that I never want to have as my thing, but whenever anyone has it as their special, like on my team,
really
I'm like,
grateful.
Thank you. You know what I mean? Like it's like that and like the vending machine.
Like, tactical.
The tactical.
Yeah, the tacticooler. It's like that is also every time I get that, I'm like, thanks, bro. Because I know this isn't like actively doing damage, but it's really helping me out, you know? So this is great. I love that about the game, that it really prioritizes teamwork.
Well, and the other weapon that has the Kraken is the 96 Gal, which is a trickier weapon to use. The 92 Gal is a little bit more user-friendly, but the 96 Gal, now that I'm starting to use it, is a really solid weapon. It's got a longer range than the 92 Gal, but a slightly slower fire rate. So like you're almost playing like, you're not quite a backliner, but you're not as much a frontliner either. You have to like kind of like play like the middle ground between those. But it's a really fun weapon. Plus the way the skin on like the weapon is, it's like all beaded and cute. So like that was that was initially the reason why I was like, because I didn't think I was ever gonna like use it, but I was like, oh, but it's so pretty, I want one. And so I got it, and like when I saw all these like Krakens being used against me, I was like, well, I should try this. And so initially I tried the roller and had some success with it, but I'm better at a shooter. So I was like, well, I'll just try the 96 scale and see how it goes. But yeah, I really like it. And using the Kraken, it's obviously really good to splat other people, but that really only works if you're in a like more contained area. The other way it can be useful is kind of like the Ultra Stamp hammer that I love so much. It's a great way of getting into their base and pushing them back into their base, which can obviously be really effective in turf war, especially if you have a longer, narrow map. But can also be really effective in Rainmaker, tower control, and splat zones. The only things that I've seen kind of being able to counter a Kraken have been a Hydra Splatling. It can't kill it, but it can at least like stop it. Like you'll see like if like the Hydra Splatling like is going full on against it, like the Kraken just kind of like pushes up against it and like it can't go forward.
That's my problem is I'm always trying to kill the Kraken with my stamp, which is not something that works.
No. The better, because like I tried to do the same thing and failed miserably. The crab tank also, similar to the Hydra, can be really effective, at least in like stopping the Kraken in its tracks. But the other thing is, depending on the map that you're playing, for instance, the Inkblot Art Academy, on the Turf War one, and also the Splat Zones, I believe, has that big center island that's really tall. The Kraken has a hard time going up that island. So basically it can just swim around. And so like if you're on the, opposing team and you're trying to get away from the Kraken, just go up the island.
Good tip.
Verticality.
Good tip. Yeah. This is now a Splatoon 3 tips and tricks episode.
Well, along with these updates, we're getting new stages. I don't know if there's a whole lot to say about the stages. I don't know that we've gotten other than it's just nice.
Yeah, I mean the Manta Maria is a Splatoon 2 stage, I believe. I think it was at least in Splatoon 2. So we always kind of get a cadence of like one previously released stage and one new one with every update. Kind of wish we got 3 because for every drop, because there are so many great stages from Splatoon 1 and 2. Even if we just got one new stage and 2 returning stages, I think that would be awesome. But, whatever. I think, they got to hold some stuff back so that Splatoon 4 will have stages from these games that weren't in Splatoon 3, I guess. But I think it's great. I've only played on the newest stage a couple times. Was it
Umami Ruins?
Umami Ruins. Yeah, which is kind of like a desert stage. It's kind of interesting. There's not a lot of like walls. It's like easy to fall off the sides really easy on this one. As a curling bomb user, that's really annoying for me because it just goes right off the side. It doesn't bounce back, Yeah.
Well, and also I've seen a couple Krakens go off the edge.
That's got to be satisfying.
It is pretty funny. And it is understandable how it happens too, just because it takes a little bit of getting used to in terms of maneuverability, just how the surge works and what your range is and such. But the Umami Ruins, it's almost like such a boring map that it's interesting. Because it's almost like an hourglass shape.
Yeah, it's pretty big. It's bigger than you would think. Yeah.
And there's that sunken in area that has I don't know what those are called, where you ink them and it creates that zip line sort of thing that you can travel on. But it reminds me a little bit of Eeltail Alley or Hammerhead Bridge in that it's a little bit narrow and there's a choke point. And so if you're a team in Turf War or really any of the modes, if you can push them back into their base far enough, you can pretty much control it.
Nice. Yeah, and I think before we move on from stages 2, I mean those are the 2 new stages that they added, and they're both pretty good. I think I preferred the first drop of stages from the
Agreed.
first update to these. But I also didn't like those at the time when they first dropped, and I grew to like them a lot more. So I probably just need to play on them more. But I will
I was
say,
just about to say that, David, because that was my exact same reaction with the first drop. And like, it probably took me a good 2 or 3 weeks before I was like, oh, these are actually kind of good.
I actually,
And
they're
so-
some of my favorite stages now. Those new
Yeah.
stages they dropped on the first drop. So, but I will say something that they did do. It's been kind of controversial in the Splatoon community. Is, you know, this was part of the patch notes before it came out, but it was like they've tweaked some stages that already existed, and specifically, mainly, it feels like they just nerfed, like snipers on them, right? Like I think a lot of stages, you know, like I forget what the stage is, but one of them just has like these poles that then just have like cars on top of the poles that basically are just blocking snipers from being able to like take shots down certain lanes, right?
Yeah.
So it's like stuff like that they've added, or they've just added poles like in the center of areas so you can't just like swim through or like, you know, just blast through something. You have to kind of like move around it. So stuff like that is a little weird, and I think that hasn't been super well regarded for a lot of the Splatoon community. Most of it doesn't really bother me, especially because I'm not a Charger player and I don't really care about sniping. And so I'm thankful. I'm like, thank God you can't fucking shoot me from over there anymore, you know. But yeah, stuff like that's like a little controversial, and the way they put in some of those updates felt like a little ham-fisted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's other updates too we should cover. The big one I know, David, you're excited about, or one of the big ones, the table turf. You can now finally play online. You can go have a seat upstairs in the lobby, and sit at that table and play table turf. You don't have to actually go up there, but
no, you don't have to, but you do have to if you're in a room with multiple people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you're in a room with like a bunch of people, I think actually even if you're just in a room with one person, you have to go up there, right?
Yeah,
to like,
once
take your
you've like
seat.
connected or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, because one
so
thing.
Cute though, the way it looks.
Oh
the
yeah.
way they like they'll like sit there and like wait for each other, and like it's just really well done.
Well, I don't think we can talk about table turf being added online, which we should talk about, but I don't think we could talk about it without talking about rooms. And they've basically just added this ability to join rooms, right? So it's basically being able to, on purpose, play with other people that aren't on your friends list, right?
Yeah.
And so every time I've been in a room with 10 people playing table turf battle, it's been, or like a you know, an actual like table turf lobby with 10 people in it, has been because I've joined some room that like has a lot of table turf players in it, right?
Well, and I think they call them pools. Yes.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, pools. Did I say rooms? Yes, I meant pools. Excuse me. Good catch, Ivy. But yeah, so pools are great, and it's like I'm in a table turf pool, right? And so, you know, you can send actual notifications now that you actually get now, like when you're in a big pool, right? And so whenever you do that, all of a sudden you've got 10 people in a table turf lobby, and then you go up to the thing, and then some people will be spectating, some people will be watching, and you just kind of patiently wait at a table until somebody's done and they come play against you. And oh man, you get less points when you play table turf against online people than if you play against computers, but it's so much more fun to play against real people than it is to play against the NPCs, partially because I think the computers cheat, and like, you know, I feel like they always, like the higher level they are, they're always putting stuff that's like going to be about where you're putting stuff. But with humans, it's a little bit easier to like trick them. You know what I mean?
Well, and I feel
So
like
having
the
a lot more
computer
fun with it
knows
online.
what cards you have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying by cheating. It's like they know what cards you have. They know like where you're going to put it to increase the difficulty, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, this is so much better. I played a lot with Summer. When my last stream I played a lot of table turf online, and me and Summer did a best 3 out of 5 of table turf matches, and it got down to the last match. It was super fucking fun. So yeah, I've been really enjoying it. Patrick, do you play table turf battle?
I have only played a few, you know, when it first came out, and then the fact that you couldn't play against people deterred me. But my kid and I played one online just to try it out against each other. But I'm probably not very good because I don't have a lot of experience, but I'm into it. I think it's really cool, and I'm glad this exists. I'm down to try it out sometime, or play it more online now.
Well, and the pools have been a game changer for all of the modes, but especially for table turf. I stumbled upon a very active pool, mainly because I wasn't even sure how to join a pool. So I just Googled it. And the first video I came across, the girl was like, I joined the pool called Autobomb. So I was like, well, I guess I'll try that one. And probably because there was a video on it, it's a very active pool. And like, I get notifications all the time now of people wanting me to play in table turf battles, in private battles, in turf war, in anarchy, in salmon run. And like, I mean, my Switch heads will always be my favorite people to play with. But when y'all aren't there to play or like schedules don't align, it's really fun to just like randomly send out a notification and see who shows up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if you really enjoy that person, then you could add them as a friend, right? If you like play really well together. Yeah.
Like which I've done several times. And like, it's funny now because like we'll see I'll see that they're online and like, I'll just like create a room and like send a like notification out to friends, like especially around the time of map changes. Cause that's usually when like everyone's booted out of their matches anyway. And like chances are like those people will, purposely join the room.
Nice.
Yeah, and you can make a pool whatever you want. Like you can call it, you could make it called Paul Giamatti fans, and then, if other people happen to type that in, then you're in good company. You know what I mean?
You all like Paul Giamatti.
No, but it's like I didn't Google like what's a good table turf like pool to join.
Yeah.
Right. But I just typed in table turf and I'm like, I'm sure a bunch of people had the same idea. And there's always people playing. Yeah. There's always people playing. It's great.
One of the things that's not new in Fresh Season, but we just experienced is Big Run. We've now had 2 Big Run events. They seem to apparently happen at the beginning of a new season. I think we can expect that going forward. So I am a big fan of this mode. I kind of wish it happened more often.
Same.
Because I think like, I don't know, there's a bit of a learning curve to it. And then, it happens one weekend, you don't get a chance to play it for another 3 months. That's a little bit of a bummer. But man, it's fun to play Salmon Run on weird maps. And it's hard, but it's fun to figure it out. Like,
so as somebody who's really bad at Salmon Run, I much prefer this because I actually like know the maps better. And like, I don't know. I did way better during this Big Run than I've ever done on Salmon Run in the past.
It's weird because like at first it feels, what I like about Big Run is first it feels hard. And then maybe it's because my rank is going down, but it gets easier. But I also like you develop the strategies for the map a little bit too. Like I was playing with my son. He just stumbled on a really great griller strategy that we used multiple times, which, we found a spot where he could stand that the grillers just can't get you. Which
AVK showed us that spot.
I think there might be more than one because there was somebody on our team spamming this way. And we're like, no, we're over here. Because
this way.
It's the one that we're doing. Which is just a fun thing to discover, right? Like, I don't know.
No, it was excellent. I'll tell you this. I have never been good at Salmon Run. I've always been really awful at it. It's not my preferred mode of Splatoon. That said, I finally made it to professional for the first time. Yeah. And plus one at that. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit, I'm actually like doing good at Salmon Run for the first time ever. And that felt really, really nice. And I think a lot of that has to do, there was like a Grisco weapon that was like really powerful. That Brella, like rapid shot Brella was really, really cool.
Yeah.
But I think also it's just like, I like having a bit more space, and I like having that ability to move around a little bit more. And I just am more familiar with Inkblot Academy than I am with any of the other like Salmon Run maps, even though it's like kind of its own unique version of that map.
Yeah,
right?
like it kind of threw me off at first because I was like, it took me a few matches to be like, oh, okay, I know where I am. I need to relax because at the beginning I'm like, where am I? Because it's not night, it's not, or and
there's no center pillar.
Yeah, right. Some of the and like especially at a different tide or something, it can feel weird.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, the tides kind of threw me, like, depending on where the basket would be.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
No, but it's great. I love that they spice up Salmon Run from time to time. It's definitely the time that I like to play that mode most. So that's really cool that they add that. Say like Salmon Run has its own Splatfest basically,
Yeah.
right? Which is really
Well,
really great.
and I agree with you, Patrick. I wish they would do it more often than every 3 months. Kind of like they do mystery weapons once a month. Like if they could
Those
somehow
things
like
should be the same. Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. Like, and I feel like it wouldn't be that hard for Nintendo to do on their end to do a big run, once a month, especially if they're going to keep it a weekend long thing. Cause like with Splatfests, they have like almost like the week leading up to it and then the 3 days.
Right.
But with Big Run, it really is just the 2 or 2.5, 3 days.
Look, we're complaining, but it used to be that you could only play Salmon Run at like random fucking times.
Right.
At least you can play Salmon Run whenever you want.
I'm
now.
so thankful for that because it was my favorite mode, and that's like
I agree.
But also in Salmon Run now, there's a new King Salmonid. There's Horoboros, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which did you all?
I prefer him to Kohazuna. It was. I never beat him, but like I've never beaten Kohazuna either. So it's just like he's made a little bit more sense in my head. I like that he's not slapping his big ass down on you on the stage. You know what I mean? Yeah. I
got to face it twice, and we got close on one, but no luck. I think blowing up the thing in its mouth is maybe a key.
Essential. Yeah, you got to throw eggs at his mouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, he's going to be around. Like he's a permanent mainstay now. It'll be like kind of cycling back and forth between.
Well, and that's what I'm curious to see is like, will it be every other day or like how that's going to work?
I think it's every 40 hours or whatever
whenever the rotation is.
Yeah, whenever the new rotation starts, it'll be a new boss. That's how I understand it based on what I read on the Reddit.
Yeah, that's good. It's just nice to see that because I wasn't really expecting that. That's like, you think, but also it's just good because I have beaten Kohazuna a number of times, not like a ton, but like it's nice to have a mix up to that. It wasn't tired yet, but I could see it getting that way. If now
it's got a very scary scream as well, disturbing, distortion scream.
Well, and having to like specifically aim at his mouth is like it's in a lot of ways it's trickier than just like aiming at the boss.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just adds in a little bit of extra challenge or something to switch it up or make it different, which is always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, we don't know yet, but there's going to be extra Salmon Run modes too, right? The extra work and stuff like that. Well, we can't really report on that. That hasn't happened yet, but it's great that there's more stuff coming. The DLC came out too, right?
Yes, it did.
Or the first portion.
The first wave.
Wave.
I have not purchased this, but I understand both of you have.
Yes. I have. Yeah.
Can y'all talk about have you explored going through the subway and all that?
Yeah, there's not that much new stuff. Obviously it's got Inkopolis from Splatoon 1 as a hub now, right? It's got all this, we've talked about this in previous episodes. It's got all the same shops, all the same items in each shop. It's got new shop owners. But it's really just kind of like a new visual hub to play the game from at this point. So there's not like a ton of new stuff. I imagine they're going to be adding more squares and more areas like beyond just this and Inkopolis Square, which is currently what we have in the game. I imagine we're going to get the Splatoon 2 hub as well at some point. They haven't announced that, but it seems very much like that's the case. One thing that they don't tell you is that you do get new like table turf opponents with Inkopolis. So that was nice to be able to have some like new computers to go against. And I actually leveled up. I finally got the table turf emote,
nice.
The card shark emote, which is now going to be my permanent emote. Yes.
So like you have to have the DLC to get those table turf opponents, I presume?
Yeah.
I believe so because they're the shop owners from Inkopolis.
And I imagine Callie and Marie as well.
Yes.
Added.
And I was playing it last night and Callie just showed up last night. And so I'm sure Marie will be not too far behind her. Mm-hmm. The other thing, it's fun for me to like go between the Square and Inkopolis, just like I like them both. But just because I never played Splatoon 1. So I feel like now I'm getting to experience all those things I heard other people talk about, which I really love. Another thing that Inkopolis has going for it is the table turf battle area is significantly easier to get to than the one in the square. It's much easier to find, and like it's just a short little like jaunt as opposed to like going here, there, and yon.
The whole thing is a lot more compressed and easy to navigate. Yeah. In a good way. And for people that have played Splatoon 1, like I played a shit ton of Splatoon 1 on the Wii U when it was out, right? And it was like, I was kind of like smacked by nostalgia just from like the music and stuff. Like whenever you're in the lobby, it's the same lobby as in Splatoon 3, but it's got like the lobby music from Splatoon 1. And I love that soundtrack. I even put I snuck a Splatoon song into a movie I made once, but it's like, I just, that soundtrack is a lot of nostalgia for me. So it was really nice to see that included as well. And we got we didn't talk about the jukebox. You can like pick the music that you're listening to in the lobby now as well. And that's got a lot of music from Splatoon 1 in it too.
Obviously that's the first part of the DLC. So we don't know what else. I mean, we know some about what's coming, but I don't know what one of the things I want to talk about is what do y'all want from the future updates and or DLC releases? What's fair to expect? Are we just happy with this and whatever they give us is fine? Or
I would love, I think we can probably expect to see another single player mode, kind of like we got in Splatoon 2 with Octo expansion.
Yeah. That's probably,
I think that's inevitable.
Yeah. They kind of hinted at that already. In terms of what I would like to see and what's plausible is like things that might actually happen with DLC. It would be cool if they had like DLC specific gear, kind of like they have amiibo specific gear. Just, like it would make just one more incentive for people to get the DLC. Cause like there are people who, and in all fairness, like I can understand why they have no interest in single player. And like, so what are, what's Nintendo going to give them as the incentive to get the DLC? Like, what does that look like? And I think one of those things could be gear, whether it's clothing or even different weapons, or like the option to like customize your weapon and like maybe a sub or a special combination, or like maybe not get to like pick from all of them, but like have like 3 that like, like I've got, a Sploosh-O-Matic, and instead of having the stamper, I want to have the crab tank, or like just to like be able to customize it somehow. That would be something really cool.
That would be really cool. That would be, I kind of like don't want them to gate that behind. I would like that to just be a free update. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that would be ideal, but But
it's like, but no, you're right. Like I know like in Splatoon 2, you could be Octolings if you bought the DLC, right? So something like that. I think something that's like almost like more like cosmetic would be better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to like flaunt it so it doesn't give you like a gameplay advantage necessarily. But I do agree. I think something special for multiplayer for people that buy the DLC would be really nice.
Well, and that was kind of the thing too in Splatoon 2 with, I guess, with both the, normal single player as well as the Octo expansion. You get, special gear that like is kind of cool. Same thing with the single player in Splatoon 3. I mean, you get, of course, like the hero replica outfit, but then also if you beat that extra kettle, you get the bear ears, which, I mean, for me, like that was like, I mean, I remember like seeing like someone wearing bear ears and I was like, oh, those are really cute. I wonder where they got those.
And
I
need that. Yeah.
That was exactly what I thought. And I was like, I need those. And like, I was going to like, either order them from merch or buy them in the store when they showed up. But then when I saw that like you had to beat that extra, secret kettle in single player, I had already decided to beat the regular part of single player. But then I was like, oh, well, now I have to beat this extra kettle. I mean, like, it's just got to happen. And, I was bound and determined to get my barriers, and I did, and I still love those things.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, I think I want to see more. I think I'd like to see the Splatoon 2 hub return. Yeah. Because I mean, there are 3 stickers behind, or there there was like 4 stickers for the different waves on the graphic for the DLC when they revealed it. So I think we know what wave 1 and wave 2 are. That's Inkopolis, and then the side order, which is probably going to be the single player content. So I'd imagine one of those other ones is going to be the Splatoon 2 hub. Whatever the last one is anyone's guess. I imagine it's going to be something somewhat substantial, hopefully. And there are like 4 drops during this thing, especially since it's a $25 DLC as opposed to $20. But I mean, as far as just like what I want from the game in general, it's like something I'd like to see is Splatfest, and more importantly, I think Big Run, to continue after the like scheduled 2 years of actual updates to the game, right? Splatoon 2, it's like basically whenever those 2 years were up, it was like, okay, you guys can do, ranked battles, and you guys can do Turf War and Salmon Run, but it's like no more of those community things were happening. And now that there's more of that, especially with its own kind of special sort of Salmon Run, I would love to see them just, even if it's just replaying Splatfest again. You don't have to write new stuff. Just recycle through them, right? And I think that would be totally fine.
Especially with tricolor.
Yeah, I agree.
Tricolor battles being kind of a unique thing. It'd be nice if that mode was available in some capacity.
But maybe they don't do that because they always want people to buy the next Splatoon.
Yeah.
Who knows?
That's true.
Right, but they could at least run them until the next Splatoon comes out.
Yeah.
That would be fair.
Yeah.
Something that I would like to see just for fun would be, how like Shiver, Fry, and Big Man, they do the announcements, and like usually I'll just like press the L stick and like skip through them. But like it would be fun if like just randomly, like every few days or like every other day or whatever, like Callie and Marie sometimes did the announcements, or Pearl and Marina, like just to like switch it up. And like,
well, if you're starting in Inkopolis or something, that would be really nice, right?
Yeah. And like even to have like Callie and Marie interact with Shiver, Fry, and Big Man, or Pearl and Marina, like maybe have like Shiver and Marie do the announcements one morning, or Callie and Big Man, like just like having them all like, I don't know, like
more variety.
I mean, like just like we picture like the people in the Mario franchise, like all the characters like interacting.
They'll hang out and play tennis and do parties and stuff. Yeah.
Like I feel like our Splatoon idols could do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should wrap this up. I think it's proof that this game is still very much, at least for the three of us, a big game, that we have so much to say about it 6 months later. We'll see what the future updates have in store. Any other final words before we move on?
No, woo me for sure. I mean, we could talk about this literally forever, and I think we should stop, but it's like, I just do want to impress, like, especially if you haven't played Splatoon yet and you're listening to this at this point, just go get the game. Like, it is
go
so
get it and
good.
come play with us.
Yeah, it's such a good game, and I really can't recommend it enough. And especially while all the updates are happening, like, it's just a great time to play this game. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the games we've been playing recently. I honestly think the most thing I've been playing is Splatoon. So we talked about it so much, I can't say anything else. I just had fun playing Big Run. I think that's really it. I've played some like Minecraft with my son, but otherwise I think I've mostly played Splatoon and cranking out levels for my own game. So I've been playing a lot of that, but that's about it.
Yeah, very good. I also have had a pretty light game week. I've been doing a lot of other stuff this past week. But I mean, a lot of it has been Splatoon when I have been playing games. I've been playing a little bit of Chained Echoes, obviously, as well. But since the update, I've been playing a lot of Splatoon. I think the other thing I've been playing through has been Super Mario Advance, Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Brothers 3 for the Game Boy Advance on Nintendo Switch Online, plus expansion pack.
Oh my gosh!
And man, it's so good. I mean, I've been playing the e-reader levels, but I've also just been going back and playing the Super Mario Brothers 3 levels, because it really is like the definitive version of that game.
I agree.
It's so fun. And it's a great, like, excuse me for saying this, but it's a great, like, I'm going to sit down and take a poop and just play like 2 levels of Super Mario Brothers 3. You know what I mean? It's like just the perfect poop length of levels. You know, like, because they're not very long. Like Super Mario Brothers 3 has very short
They are short levels.
you know, and so it's great. And you can feel like you're doing something. You can play a little bit of the match game, and then you're like, great, time to wipe and put this down. And
as long as you wash your hands.
No, I don't. That's something that you'll find about me, Ivy, is that I don't wash my hands. And
which is why no one else touches your
That's
Switch.
why it's my Switch. No one else touches my Switch. That's so gross and not true. That's a bit. But yeah, that's mainly what I've been playing. If I've been playing anything else, I kind of forgot it. But yeah, that's been the majority of what I've been playing this week. What about you, Ivy? Anything other than Splatoon?
I rolled credits on Chained Echoes, which just fantastic game. Yes. So inventive, so accessible, just so fresh. I also, we had an internet outage over the weekend for a few hours, and it was right during the time of Big Run. So I was like, well, now I need to figure out another game to play. So I went back into Breath of the Wild and kind of just ran around and like leveled up some gear there. And like, it's been my plan all along to a few, weeks before the new game comes out to go back into that game. And like, hopefully the mechanics, the controls are at least pretty similar. So I figured, I'll relearn them, because I remember when I first started playing the game, it took me a while to get the controls. At first, instead of like swinging my sword, I was like throwing it, which didn't really work out for me.
Yeah,
but once I remembered to stick it with the pointy end, it worked out much better.
Yeah.
But so I played some Breath of the Wild, and then Splatoon. I have just, for the last several months, really, I have gotten really into the anarchy battles, and that's become something that kind of like getting the barriers was a goal for me. It's my goal to get to like the S+ level. And I almost got there at like right before this past season ended. I was like, I had my rank up battle to go from S to S+, and like,
is that when you unlock X battles? Is when you get to S+?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
it is. And like, I was so close. But I just, and I didn't make it. And like, I mean, sure, like I was disappointed, but more than anything, like in the long run, like I know it's probably a good thing, because like it just means like I'm not there yet. Like I'm just not ready yet.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've played 3 Splatoon games and I've never gotten out of C rank on any of them ever.
Well,
yeah,
but and I didn't think I would be able to either. But for me, it's been a lot of, rather than playing only the series ones where like you can get more points, it's been playing a lot of open ones and just getting the practice and the time in, experimenting with new weapons and seeing what weapons work better for different modes. So, if at some point you ever want to like play Anarchy, let me know, and like I'll do my best to help. But like, and I am by no means an expert. More than anything, I just am putting the time in. But
well, you got about 600 hours on me, so I'll trust you.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's been pretty much my mainstay has been Splatoon and like trying to get better.
Awesome.
Well, I think that does it then. Thank you so much, Ivy, for joining us and coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I loved talking all things Splatoon.
Oh yeah.
Thank you to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick, you can find me online most places as PDYX.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Ivy? Where can people find you online?
I'm in our Discord group as Ivy.
Very good. Very good. And also, we should give you an opportunity here to plug your novels. Something I didn't even realize until recently, Sarah, now I'll refer to you as Sarah, that you're also an author. And you've got a couple novels that are out. Where can people find those?
I am. Thank you. I recently published them on Amazon. And just to make it easier, I'll post the links in, I guess, the podcast area once this podcast drops. But if you just go into Amazon and in the search bar, type in my name, Sara, S-A-R-A, last name Waldman, Waldman, they pop right up. The first one is called The Leader, and it is a historical fiction about a German teenage boy in Nazi Germany who encounters a very powerful SS general and like kind of how his life changes because of it. And the second one is called Persephone, and it's a reimagining of the classical Greek myth with a modern twist as well.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah, I got both of those downloaded on my Kindle.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I started one of them. I haven't gotten too far yet. I've been playing too much Splatoon, but I'll definitely get around to it at some point. And please check out Sara's novels as well. We'll put a link to that in the description of this video as well. So make sure you check that out. And then if you'd like to find our show on social media, folks, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. We've got a website, switchheadz.com. And then, like we've said a couple times, join our Discord. It's such a great community, especially if you've stuck around and you've listened to all this Splatoon talk. You're definitely going to have a good time in our Discord. And if not, we got lots of other channels as well. It's not just Splatoon in there. We got tons of games that we're always talking about. Metroid chat's been popping off recently. Great time. So make sure you join us over there or on our Facebook group as well, which is its own wonderful community. That's going to do it for the episode, gang. We've got a big episode next week. We got episode 200, gang. We're doing a special episode for you guys. We're still figuring out exactly what that's going to look like, but we're trying to figure out something to do like a live episode for you guys. So I think we're going to be having some sort of celebration thing. Maybe a special someone who left the podcast recently will be back. We'll see what happens. We're still figuring it out. But either way, 200 episodes plus about 30 or so special episodes of Super Switch Headz is a crazy accomplishment. So please join us next week for that, whether you listen to it audio or you want to join us on YouTube, or even if you want to watch us live, we'd love to have you there and have you interact with us in the chat. And we'll be doing a real fun episode for our 200th episode. So make sure you tune in for that. But other than that, gang, we're going to go for now. You guys know the drill. Stay safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Woo me, as we've said before. We love you guys very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.